Okay, hello, my name is Eric Lee, and this is my third video based on my multiverse leak down theory. It's basically that we live in a sea of subatomic particles that um, interfere with, uh, uh, well, it creates gravity, I should say, and it does interfere with this experiment. It did interfere with this experiment, which was called the double slit experiment, and uh, basically they took a electron and they shot it through the double slit opening, and they were trying to, I guess, see the behavior of electrons, and it was shot out probably through an electromagnetic field generated accelerator of electrons, subatomic particles, whatever. And it was expected to make this double pattern, but instead it made this uh, multiple interference pattern, as they call it. And they had emptied the entire chamber, and they went through painstaking, you know, processes to do that. And no matter what they did, they always got this interference pattern. And I believe there was one PhD student at the time that guessed that it was just sheer randomness that caused it, and he, I think, got the Nobel Science Prize for his explanation, uh, if I remember correctly. But anyway, um, the reason I'm revisiting it is because in my multiverse leak down theory, there we live in a sea of particles, and these sea of particles um, are so small. They're basically like string matter, maybe even they have to do with dark matter, um, or some other subatomic particle. And as a matter of fact, one physicist that I saw on YouTube, he was saying that they're going to track down this invisible matter sooner or later. And I believe they will. I mean, it just, I think it's a matter of time before human technology progresses to that level. I mean, it's just amazing what they're doing already. But anyway, so the first version of what I'm about to tell you is this: the electron, which was probably positively charged, it knocked into these particles that I'm speaking of. We'll call them Keku particles, since they're similar to maybe string particles. After Michio Keku, who is the proponent of string theory. Um, anyway, when this particle was shot out, it created a negative electron, because when it hit into these particles, it perturbed the particles to imitate this positively charged electron, but it created a duplicate with a negatively charged, like it was like positive matter and antimatter. So basically, they both went through and created this interference pattern of particles, these subatomic particles, the Keku particles, or string matter, or dark matter, or some other, subatomic particle is what I mean by Keku matter. So basically, it created this interference waves, and this when it impacted together, of course, it was antimatter and matter. When they reached that point where they hit together onto the sensor, they self-annihilated, which is what happens when antimatter and matter collide. So That's one theory. The other theory that I have uh, is that the particle, the electron, went through, and as it was going through, it perturbed all the minute particles, uh, and the particles themselves created the interference pattern, and it was just one single electron which got caught up inside this interference pattern, and it became like this. Like to give an analogy, I I one time had this extremely crazy experience on a yacht. Uh, I'd never piloted a yacht in my life, and we were in certain dire circumstances, and we tried our hand at living on a boat. And I ran into a part of the Chesapeake where the Potomac River, which is one of the largest rivers uh, on the Chesapeake, that runs into the Chesapeake, and then the current of the Chesapeake itself, and it just created this type of like interference pattern, you might say, and the vessel was just going every which direction possible. It was completely out of control, and but it was still progressing forward slowly, and it was in what's called the danger zone. And don't ask me how I ended up in that zone, because the charts say to stay out of that area. But anyway, that's a subject for the book I'm going to write about experiences on a boat. But anyway, uh, this interference pattern caused by the original wave of particles that passed through would have caused a double pattern, and would have basically uh, chose whichever interference pattern it was going to go to, basically, or what target it was going to go to. So, in a sense, maybe the PhD student or whoever he was that got the Nobel Prize was correct in that sense. But I have to say also, well, how random is random? And that might sound like a crazy question, but when I did programming in what used to be called basic programming, I think it's called Python now. It was extremely difficult to generate random numbers. Our computer teacher told us to generate random numbers, and you had to have the exact formulation to generate random numbers. So, um, randomness is uh, an algorithm in itself. Doesn't that sound strange? Because otherwise, how would you have like this pattern? You wouldn't have such an organized pattern. Um, anyway, that's my take on what happened with this split blind test. We live in a sea of what I deem as Keku particles. It's a newly uh, um, coined particle that encompasses the possibility of any subatomic particle, including string matter, dark matter, and maybe any other undetected atomic matter. But basically, it's coming through into my mind that we do live in this sea of particles, and the one physicist who claimed that we're going to find these unseen particles, he claimed that there was they found out, actually it wasn't just a claim, they found that 300 billion particles pass through your, even just your thumb, every day. And that just kind of was just extremely interesting. And that was a particle that they did detect. It was a subatomic particle. I can't remember if it was a quark or a neutrino or. I'm sorry. My retention isn't all that great, but it just, I'm just trying to demonstrate to you that there is a sea of particles, and it can affect even these experiments that could have been misinterpreted in the past. And this is my take on it. So anyway, I hope my speech is getting a little better, or my ability to speak, I should say. Uh, so thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. And I'll do my best to do the thing about the speed of light and why there's a speed limit, and interesting other aspects of the speed of light. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.